Review of work session discussion meeting minutes. And have any questions or changes?
Good.
I didn't either.
We'll move to department head report. Don't see the sheriff. Tim Ishman? Is Tim here? Oh, sorry.
I'm back here.
Hi, I'm behind Dan.
I'm sorry, I've used instructions. Good morning, everybody. How are you today?
Good.
I want to give you regarding some ice repairs that are going on. We installed a new pump that we purchased last year, and we pressurized the pump, and we have a leak in one of our pipes that the glycol runs through. So we have to get that repaired, otherwise we're going to be going down the drain with some very expensive cooling fluid. So it's a rusted out piece. We're going to cut it out and basically replace it, and then we'll get that back up and going again. Glycol is about $1,000, and pump works about $1,500. The pipe work is about $1,500, and now to get that back up and going. It's one of those things we didn't know when we bought the pump, and once we pressurized it, we found another situation that unfortunately showed itself to us. So in order to have it run efficiently, that's what we give you an update on where that stood. But everything else is running fine down at the ice arena at this point in time, and no shovel wise. It is what it is in regards to weather. We'll see what we do. We'll not see what we can do. Any questions about the ice arena repairs or anything else recreation for you?
When are you going to have that done? Or are you looking for approval to have that done?
Oh, in the past, it's been part of the service agreement with the people who maintain ours, so I mean, just more information. I mean, I've never brought those items to you. In the past, we have a line item that has repairs in it. We're fixing that type of stuff in order to kind of well, it turned out the air hammer wasn't blowing out the cold air. That's what we brought a service call in. And we recognized that there was no glycol in that pump because that still had leaked. And that basically, there wasn't much glycol in that reservoir anyways. But we realized that was the problem, so we worked through to find out what the situation was, and that's what I just shared with you a few seconds ago. So, had that not been leaking, we would not even having this conversation. And it's one of those things we just got to happen with that on where it was. So, I mean, there's money in the line item. Typically, the past practice has been the company that has our maintenance and service work for our HVAC addresses that situation, and I get their price from them and quote in regards to what that's going to be. So, I mean, if there's different directions I can take from a approval standpoint, I'll change directions, and that's just operating as I have. Well, thank you.
I'm fine with that. Yes.
Anything else? All right. Dan Colville.
Thank you for that.
Nothing to report on. I did reach out to Dan, was it last week?
Yes.
The end of last week. I was walking through the hall, and actually the sheriff's at the front door pointed a gentleman in my direction to discuss possibly putting benches on the way up the ramps here because people who are, I guess, older and can't get it there all in one trip, they need a place to sit down, or younger. Dan, can you just look into that and get some park bench prices and email the commissioners, and we could discuss that?
I sure will.
What's interesting is at Eaton Park up by Lowe's, their all the pictures around Eaton Park are dedicated to around the courthouse. And there's an older picture of different benches around where they were before.
Okay.
So that's interesting. So just a fun fact. I'm here for a fun fact.
Yeah, you can go up there and see where they were placed before.
Just be careful. We older people are a protected class.
Well, I think they serve seniors at like before 4. I would be able to be there
So
too.
he mentioned that, and he also mentioned a road that runs along the Brady's Run Lake. He used to be able to call the sheriffs. They would come out, unlock a fence, let him drive, drop his stuff off, go out, park, and they would close it back up. I did drive by the lake, and there is a very small, looks like a gravel. I don't even necessarily know if it'd be a road or not.
There is a road that runs.
Yeah, there is.
So I told him I'd look into that and see if we could get maybe a phone number. Like I said, he's a gentleman who has a hard time walking, but he said he likes to be able to go up there and fish and drop his stuff off, but then park his car, not leave his car on that road, but not be able to drag the stuff. So I told him I'd look into that, but I said the benches will be the first thing. And if Dan, if you could reach out or look into seeing how much, I know we looked at some park benches, but there might be different ones. So thank you. Any other department head report? Hearing none. Solicitor's report?
Moving forward, the list of resolutions that will be on the agenda for tomorrow evening's meeting. Number 2 is through the Planning Commission. That's the assistance with the steering committee. This contract was already signed off on. We're just moving forward with it on the resolution tomorrow. Number 4 and number 5 have to deal with cleaning of algae at Brush Creek and Brady's Run. We do that annually. Number 6 is a $350,000 grant that Waste Management got for equipment to assist with recycling. Number 22 is for a grant for bathroom renovations at the Ambridge Library. 25 deals with the short-term insurance for the county. 26 and 27 are 2 different policies through the Human Resources. The first, 26 is for the internship policy, the procedures for internships here at the county. 27 is the policy that we talked about now for a couple meetings, which is the volunteer firefighter policy here for county employees who also serve as volunteer firefighters. This would enable them to go to non-routine calls, both during work if they have their supervisor's approval and prior to work. Number 32, is Ron here? I'll let Ron explain that. This is something similar that we've done in the past regarding bonds. This one is for Lincoln Park's Performing Arts Center. Ron will give you a brief overview about this.
Thank you, Karen. My name is Ron Brown. Good morning, folks. I'm a bond counsel for the Pennsylvania Finance Authority and the Lincoln Park Center. And I've been in touch with Garen about a request from the authority and the center to ask the board to approve what it would be considered sort of a process resolution in this sense. The center is interested in taking advantage of some improved financial terms on some notes that were issued about 8 years ago through the Finance Authority. So there's an amendment process underway. The PA Finance Authority has approved the amendments. The center is interested in moving forward, and these are tax-exempt amended notes. And under the tax code, there's a requirement that there be an elected representative resolution approval of that same project. And so the resolution that I've circulated with your solicitor is essentially a pro forma resolution of the kind that you have approved previously for these projects, which essentially lays out that you're aware of the project, you are aware of the approval from the authority and from the center, that the commissioners approve the project, but that there's no financial obligation, no debt or credit of the county in any way affected by the project. So that's pretty much what is requested of the commissioners, and this resolution is necessary to enable us to check off the box that we've done all the steps we need under the federal tax code. And the other part that's happened is that there's a required public hearing that the authority advertised and held last week prior to their approval. So all of those steps are in place, and this would be one of the sort of the near final steps before the center and the authority can go through this amendment of their existing notes. It's essentially to reduce or to extend and improve their bottom line in terms of their obligations under these notes. That's the purpose.
This is similar to what we did with Villa St. Joseph a couple months ago. It doesn't obligate the county to any type of financial.
CIM looked at this?
CIM has looked at it. I spoke with Steve Mazickley yesterday. They're in approval with it. So that'll be on the agenda for tomorrow. Thanks, Ron.
Thank you.
Is there an actual project tied to this?
It's the same project. It's just that the tax exempt notes that were issued in 2011 can be adjusted so that the terms are more favorable to the borrower, to the center. So there's no change. The funds that were borrowed through the note back in 2011. They've been expended for that purpose. This is just adjusting some of the terms so that there's less of a reserve required by the center. The debt is their payments are reduced, so it's not a new project, it's just financial improvements to the existing note structure.
So in essence, we have no liability here whatsoever.
That's correct.
Okay.
And it sounds like there isn't a new project associated with this.
There was a project, and this is a continuation of that project.
Well, it's modifications to the notes that were issued, the tax exempt notes that were issued 8 years ago. So all the money's been expended on the facilities that were financed in 2011 or after that date. This is just saying, well, there are notes outstanding, they have a certain interest rate, they have a term, there are reserve requirements. All of those are being relaxed to some extent, so the center can reduce its financial obligation.
Number 33, just want to point out that is with the pharmaceutical scripts with the county. That is an agreement for a 3-year contract. Going through those resolutions, if there aren't any questions, we will need an executive session for personnel matter, litigation matter, and contract negotiations.
Has it been decided how this grant is going to be dispersed within waste management?
It's for 4 pieces of equipment.
Okay.
I'm not exactly sure what those 4 pieces of equipment are, but it's
Okay.
for various equipment.
Is there a point in there where it could be allocated to administration, to admin?
I'd have to check with Holly to see.
Okay.
Any other questions for the law department? Hearing none. Move to the Board of Commissioners report.
I'm just happy to see the firefighters policy on this resolution. We spent quite a bit of time working on that, so.
Yeah, and I think, Sid, you've been meeting with the departments. You've already contacted the departments who have them. How many departments have, each one? And
There was only 3 departments, there's 4 volunteer firemen.
okay.
Total 4
Mhm.
people.
Excluding 911 and jail.
Okay, yeah. Now, is there a portion of that that says that we were talking about is if this is a 6-month trial or a year trial, or just to weigh out
There's
our
nothing in
options?
it that says that it's only for a certain period of time, but certainly if we want to amend the policy at any time moving forward, we
Okay.
could do that.
Okay.
Yeah, most of the firemen work for EMA, so
All
they're
right.
going to be called out anyway.
Commissioner Eagle?
I would like to talk about, Tim, last year we did a family skate for all of the employees here in the courthouse as a thank you.
Okay.
Could you maybe bounce off a couple days with us?
Sure.
Preferably a Saturday or a Sunday?
Through the city.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, and let us know. Since I'm talking to you, the snow shovel event,
Yeah.
how many times have you rescheduled that?
Well, it starts the second Saturday in January, and it rolls every Saturday to the end of February, provided we get the conditions.
Okay.
So it could be a 6-week or 7-week roll.
And every weekend, you roll that over. And every weekend, all of your staff is at the ready in
All of
case.
your staff, yes.
Okay, I don't think that's fair. I think that my opinion is, and I would like to pose this question to the board, is choose one date and then choose a makeup date. And that be that. This keeping staff and all of you holding for a total of 6 to 8 weeks is not fair to you, their families. So that's my suggestion.
Have you had many complaints, or the volunteers that do come in, do they ever say, or obviously there's going to be weekends where they can't volunteer? You would,
Yes and yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes, it's not a event that takes a lot of people, but I mean, over the last 3 years, it has increased, but Again, I'm unfortunate enough that I understand I've only canceled once in the first 51, and I've had the pleasure of potentially canceling 3 out of 6. So, I mean, it's one of those situations where my tenure's not giving me the best weather to be able to have it. And it does put stress on people, as Commissioner Gregory said, trying to roll it out. It's just you get hung up till Thursday afternoon to be able to make a decision, and then people can kind of go about their day. But they have plans that will do something they can. And I got some personal things for me in regards to it. That's part of my job to do the event. But I've had volunteers and other staff members who would not show up, which would leave me short, and volunteers that are just like, I can't come now. So, put some strain on that.
That sounds reasonable to me.
It does, yeah. Will we continue this year? Wait, I mean, we're almost
Yeah,
at the end of
we're going to
February,
February.
so it'll be
Last
for
Saturday.
2020.
And right now, looking at the conditions, you're probably not going to have it this Saturday. I'm pretty sure that's
Yeah.
probably going to be. And looking long term, they're calling for an inch of snow next week. So, if they're right, pretty good chance this will be a year it won't happen.
A contact at the Pens called me and let me know that our arena did not make the cut of the 3 arenas that they chose, and I told him he's sadly mistaken, that he should have donated that money to us. But they are on the Facebook now, and the voting is open. So really, even if they're not in Beaver County, it still promotes the region. So that's out. This conversation with Tim has about the pumps and the air handler. I mean, you're talking about a lot of different things. We've talked about hiring a firm to go to each one of our facilities and look at a cost study of if this were to break, this is, and iron that out over a period of 20 years. So we actually know what we're looking at. And I know we talked to a few firms just to get some ideas. Would either of you be against moving on that? Because I think it's essential. We're being nickeled and dimed, and we don't even know that this is coming up.
Yeah, you know what, I have no problem doing that. We can just check to see if there's money in the budget to do it. I mean,
I would be okay with, I met with the one firm after you guys met with them because I wasn't able to make it. They seemed, this is what they do. They just did, I think that firm specifically just did it for CCBC. They also got into detail to talk about how something like this study can help us on our bond rating as well.
mm-hmm.
Well,
Because when you go into those meetings and show that you have a capital project, that helps in the long run. So I would be okay with that. I don't know if that would have to go out for RFQ, probably because it's a professional service, but we'd like to get more than one option, I think. And also the second thing is with the money, I think that was a recommendation
from PFM.
So
It was.
if we could pull some money from the second phase or apply for a third phase or so on. So I would be okay with, I think we just need to decide on whether or not to do a RFQ or just pick a firm to come in. So
Okay. Awesome.
We'll just have to broach that with our financial guy. And if we can use Act 13 monies, or we can use other monies.
Mhm.
And have we heard any more movement on the improvements for the Brush Creek updates? I know there was a lot of activity about a month ago where the couple municipalities were up in arms about the condition of the restrooms and such. Has anything happened since
I
then?
haven't heard anything more than the solicitors were talking with each other. That's the last night I
Okay.
heard. There was a letter that came and there was a conversation, but no one's reached back out to Parks.
Okay.
As far as the work that needs to be done,
Yes.
it will be scheduled. It's whenever the weather breaks, we can get people into the restrooms that are there.
Okay.
We'll get the walls straight and a coat of paint on them. I did come to you folks a few weeks ago, discussed about some of the old brick block outhouses, about eliminating them and just replacing the porta johns. So I believe there's off the top of my head, I'm gonna say there's 2 of those out of that park that will be coming down.
It probably would be a good idea is if we could get that list of what you're gonna be doing as improvements, and Cindy can put it into a nice letter and send it over to those municipalities showing that we are doing what we said we're gonna do.
Yeah, and I think, of course, you know, the bathrooms is one issue, but the big issue that we're all aware of is the condition of that road. That's just, we have to come up with the funding for that.
Well, every time that bridge washes away and we put $1 million into that bridge, there's not a lot of money left, and that's exactly what I told them. So we're trying our best to do improvements to that park, but with limited funds. I mentioned before that I would bring up the conversation about time clocks. We've had time clocks here in the courthouse for, I think, Tony, was that in your administration? When was that?
8 years ago? 7
8 years ago. So, was there a policy put in place whenever you installed them?
Everybody but electeds.
So everybody but elected officials punch in and punch out every day.
Well, some of the courts, the people like probation, adult probation, they go out at all hours at night. so
Okay,
There's some differences with the courts.
okay,
But for the most part, yeah, chief deputies and
okay.
second deputies and union people.
All right, because there seems to be an ask of one elected official's office that these salary people should not be required to punch in. And I would like to know where you guys stand on that, because I'm being asked, what are we gonna do?
My position would be to follow past practice, but also review the policy and maybe update it and, you know, make it a secure, a new policy, I guess. If the law department HR is willing to do that, I think, you know, I think if we let one office do it, it's going to open a door for every office to do it.
I said that early on, based on past practice.
But what I'm hearing is what they're bringing up is you have an elected official in their office. Those employees fall under that elected official. That elected official is that person's boss. Now they're telling us that they're not going to punch in.
I mean, the other employees fall underneath us because they fall underneath the commissioner's unit, correct? Even though they're
I mean, they're ultimately, you guys are the ones that pay them.
Are you saying all of them?
Mhm.
All the
Not
employees.
just under the commissioner's unit, all employees?
Yes.
Okay, so what's that? What does that boil out
So,
to?
yeah, where does that put us if we put a policy in place? Are they will they have to follow the policy, or do they not?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, the practice has been that all of these individuals punch in.
Mhm.
And that has been the way for at least, it sounds like 8 years. At the end of the day, you guys can make the determination as far as who you would like to have punch in. And we can look at the policy that's in place and make any tweaks if you would want that to be necessary. But that's your ultimate call on how you guys decide you want to handle that.
Okay, I agree with you. I would like to take a look at that policy, and if there needs to be any type of changes. It's odd to me that after 8 years, this is an issue, and it doesn't seem, it's not normal. So why is it not normal, is my question. But, okay, we'll do that. I think did you bring extra tape? I'm done.
Okay. The only thing I had written down was time clock. So last week we didn't brief it because you were out for the
Yeah,
funeral,
yeah.
but I wanted to make sure the whole board
Thank
was
you.
here. So I don't have anything else, so we'll go to other business. If the board doesn't have anything else, we'll move to the Orton Foundation, the PA Humanities Council.
Hello, everybody.
Hi.
My name is David Weaver. I'm the Director of Marketing Communications for the Orton Family Foundation. With me is Jess Trimble from DCED. And apologies, our third member who was going to speak today from Pennsylvania Humanities Council, Lori Zero, who is the Executive Director, had a family emergency, so she had to stay in Philadelphia last night. So unless you have an objection, she did send a letter I'd like to read you, and we'll turn it in later. We are delighted to have this opportunity to collaborate with Lance Grable and his team, the Orton Family Foundation, and the Pennsylvania Department of Community and Economic Development. People often ask us what role the humanities play in community development. Many hear humanities and picture old books gathering dust on a shelf. On the contrary, our vision of the humanities is a toolkit for collective action and positive change. Through all of our programs and all across Pennsylvania, we bring people together to shape the future of their communities through the power of stories, reflection, and relationships. In 2015, we joined forces with the staff of the Orton Family Foundation because they share our approach of putting people first and investing in resident-driven long-term change. To date, we've worked together with residents in Carlisle, Meadville, Williamsport, and more recently in Cameron County and Upper Chichester, and we've seen many successes. We're eager to bring Orton's community heart and soul model and the power of the humanities to Beaver County. I wish I were able to be with you today to express this, and I hope I'll have the chance to talk with you in person soon. In the meantime, my staff and I are available by phone and email to provide additional information and answer any questions you may have. Best regards, Lori Zare. So as I mentioned, my name is David Weaver. I live in the state of Vermont in a town of 3,000 people. My wife did text me this morning and let me know that she's digging out from 3 feet of snow. So thank you for welcoming me to the tropical climes of Beaver County. The Orton Family Foundation was started by Lyman Orton, who is his family originally started the Vermont Country Store, which was a very successful business. And as part of that, and by nature of his success, he became a member of the Planning Council in the very small town of Weston, Vermont. And he learned firsthand what happens when the government and planning commissions and the residents of the community aren't engaged together as one. And so based on that happening, Lyman founded the Orton Family Foundation as an operating foundation. And what that means, for those of you who don't know, is an operating foundation, we spend all of our money towards our work. We're not a grant-making foundation. We actually operate and spend our money towards creating good works. I myself came here on our own dime today and continue to do that. And it's very, as a person who came from the for-profit world, as I always say, it's nice to use my powers for good. And what Lyman did was started the Orton Family Foundation because he believed fundamentally in one principle, which was that towns are the backbone of this country. That towns, and we define town as 50,000 and less, so the moniker towns and small cities might be better. Towns are fundamental to what makes us great, and so the preservation of towns and helping towns thrive in the world we live in today is absolutely instrumental. So as part of that, the Orton Family Foundation created a model called Community Heart and Soul. Community Heart and Soul is a resident-driven community engagement model that goes through 4 phases as a way to help the members of the community and is owned by the residents of the community. It's implemented by the residents of the community and performed by the residents of the community. It's a 4-phase model that helps the community base its truths in what matters most to them. In fact, if there's a guiding principle for the foundation, it's we believe in what matters most. And at the foundation, from our headquarters in Vermont, we can't decide what matters most. Individual towns decide what matters most to them. So even though the Orton Family Foundation and Community Heart and Soul is a nationwide model, we have 70 towns that are participating in the model, all the way from the northeast corner of Maine down to South Carolina, all the way to Victor, Idaho. The reality is how it's implemented, what's being done specifically is different in every one of those nearly 70 towns. It's very important for us that it's done that way. The model is based on 4 phases. The first phase is about imagination, having the residents of the community start to get together and imagine what they might want to create together, what matters most to them, and why they move there. Fundamental to phase 1 is it's based on optimism. It's based on storytelling, and we ask questions like, why are you here? Why did you move here in the first place? Why would you like to stay here long term? So it's not subject to the storytelling around the negative storytelling. Why would you move? What's wrong here, et cetera. It's more about the idea of, why are you here? What are your dreams for what this place could be? The second phase is about connection. It's about finding those people in your community who maybe you've never met with. And it's funny, like I was thinking about this myself. I moved into a town of 3,000 people about three years ago, and obviously I know probably the same circle of 20 people. All of us could do better by learning and meeting more of our neighbors. And fundamental to phase 2 is we don't ask the residents to come to the meetings, we actually bring the meetings to them. We always say at the Orton Family Foundation, our biggest innovation is a table. We bring that table to all sorts of places. We've held meetings in laundromats and libraries and all around town. The reason is you want to make sure you're inviting everyone to the table and asking them again to tell their personal stories about why that town matters so much to them. Phase 3 is about planning, where you begin to articulate what we call heart and soul statements, usually about 7 statements that towns use to demonstrate their unique character and what matters most to them, as a way of sort of codifying that so that it can be written on a wall or kept on a piece of paper and reminding them of what's happening. And the final phase is action, really thinking about, given the fact that those ideas in the first 3 phases were about articulating those values, what do we want to do about those values? And what's great, there are lots of individual stories that I won't take your time up today that I've heard over and over and over again as I've talked to towns that have implemented the model. And what happens is you find this bias for action about something that was articulated that was really important that nobody knew about. Maybe it's a road by a lake that needs a bench, or there's a place that people like to go fishing that nobody ever knew about until these individual residents shared their stories. And that's what it's about, is a way of codifying those ideas. There's a town, for example, in Biddeford, Maine, that had a giant trash incinerator that was really the fundamental business that was in the middle of their town. This incinerator made so much of their money back in the day that Biddeford was once referred to as Trash Town. And so it's a moniker, obviously, they didn't really want. Well, once that incinerator went out of business, there was a lot of real questions about what to do with that incinerator. Through the work of the residents did with Community Heart and Soul, they identified something really important, which was, in the end, they needed to tear down that incinerator and turn that space into something new and something that would be more productive for the economic development of where the town is going to go forward. So as I mentioned earlier, even though I came in from Vermont, we believe very strongly that that work doesn't happen in Vermont. It happens in great places like Beaver County. And we provide guidance and a model and a roadmap from the national scale, but we rely on trusted partners at the local level to make those things happen. Not only on the town level itself, but collaborations which really turn this on. Collaborations with great entities like the Pennsylvania Humanities Council and DCED. So with that, I'll turn it over to Jess to talk about DCED a little bit.
Great. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for having us here today. I really appreciate it. So my name is Jessica Trimble, and I'm a policy specialist and planner with the Pennsylvania Department of Community and Economic Development in Harrisburg in the Center for Local Government Services. And the Center for Local Government Services, as you guys may know, we are an advocate for counties and municipalities. And the reason I'm here today is David, the Orton Foundation, and the reason we're kind of collaborating with the Pennsylvania Humanities Council on this heart and soul planning model idea is because we really believe it's a great opportunity for municipalities and counties to tap into the resources that they have and discover that with a built-in plan of attack, really. So our Deputy Secretary at the Center for Local Government Services, Rick Valello, he likes to tell a story of when he was the mayor of Lock Haven in Clinton County. He implemented a community engagement planning model. And at first, when the idea was proposed, he was very skeptical and he didn't know what it was going to bring out of the woodwork, what kind of, he thought maybe there would be complaints or just like a lot of things that he was going to have to wade through to make this work. But what he found was that it was actually one of the best things for them to do, and it actually made his time as mayor there because he had a roadmap that was designed by the people. He was able to activate these informal leaders that they didn't know that they had, and that took a lot of weight off of the municipality itself. It took some weight off of the county. People start to take projects under their own wings. They take ownership of their community. They take great pride. And so we really, at DCD, see this as a fantastic opportunity for you all to get some help in lightening your load, and also finding out what the people really want, the people that live in your towns, in your county, what they want to do. So yeah, I'm really happy to be here, and we are here as Center for Local Government Services to kind of assuage any issues that might arise when you're trying to bridge the gap between county and municipality. We're happy to step in and kind of get everybody's issues on the table if anything comes up, if there's a difference in goals or ideas, just helping facilitate those conversations in a really productive and efficient way for you. And yeah, I'm just really glad to be here, so thank you very much for exploring this opportunity with us.
Okay.
I just want to say thanks to the commissioners for allowing me to go through this. It's been a year, a little over a year that we've been working with them, and our approach is, as a county, is different than what has been done in the past. So once again, the three of you are proving to have foresight and vision that is just not typical, and that's allowing us as a county to attack this as opposed to trying just to one at a time coerce or get an individual municipality to go do that. So I appreciate your support.
I'm assuming you have criteria for any project that these municipalities may have.
As far as an ideal?
Yes, yes.
I think the heart and soul model, is there a population range that's sort of ideal?
It's not so much an ideal, it's basically 50,000 and under is how we look at the population, but there definitely, we gear the model to developing what we call essential elements, which are things that need to be sort of produced at the end of this such that it integrates with local government, et cetera. And so we'll tend to sort of gauge those criteria in the way on the upfront of saying, okay, who's most likely to be able to succeed long-term with this model and have it actually work for them in the end.
And you're at a great advantage right now with working on your comprehensive plan. It's just, the timing is just fantastic. And from DCD's perspective, that's just great, because what you learn from this process can inform your comprehensive plan for years to come.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions? We'll move to Jolie Bowers from Working Bridges.
Hello,
Hi, Jolie.
I'm back in Beaver County. And I've been to almost every park you have now, I think. So, not the dog park. But, so yesterday we had a meeting with the newly forming Historic Fallston Bridge Commission. And what came up at that meeting was a little of a bit of a shock to me, because I've been working on getting our numbers to the county for the bridge, the Fallston Bridge project, getting those numbers out to the community as well and to the Fallston Bridge Commission, trying to explain to them how we try to work quickly through a project in order to maximize the momentum, especially when we're driving a community-based program. Yes, these guys should have been, working on the Fallston Bridge project. So I'm here today. I wanted to update you on the numbers for Fallston Bridge and put in an offer to purchase that bridge for the purposes of preservation. And I'm here to update you on Watts Mill. So, Watts Mill is real quick. It's flooding out there now. Our team was planning on getting there this week. We were here on January 4th to do a site visit at Fallston Bridge that we funded through donations of $8,000. When we were here, we talked to the train, the YSRR, and we decided that we really needed to set up the cranes on the train side of the Watts Mill as opposed to the other side, because the drop off is just too much. We are not permitted to touch any fill or anything of that nature. In that site visit, they have decided that they want to drop the floor beams out of the two trusses that tie the trusses together, and then pull the two trusses that are continuous, pull them in one piece so that we don't have to cut that center post. So that's where we're at now. We have Allegheny Crane Company, I believe, will get the nod from us to bring their cranes out. We have permission from YSRR to put the crane on that side and to work with them. When it gets busier, that communication will be more important. We think it'll be a 4-hour in and out. And we're ready to come as soon as we can get a good window of opportunity. So that's where we're at. We have submitted our financial report to the state. Mark Young got back to me going, reporting? I said, yes, we're not asking for more money. We are in the process of going through that initial funds that PennDOT was able to produce for us. We're sorry for the delay. We had all that great weather in December where had we just gotten that contract a few weeks earlier, we probably could have already had that bridge out. My contractors tell me to not expect too much of a delay from this beginning, that they still hope to get it set up for this summer. And I know that's important. I just found out yesterday from David Holowico that a big donor out there has purchased the land for a nature preserve near Watts Mill. So preservation of Watts Mill Bridge has created the opportunity for a nature preserve out there. That is a pretty good outcome from saving a bridge, and we are so delighted that we could work with all of the people that were involved in saving Watts Mill Bridge. Now we're to Falston. We would like to, after yesterday's meeting, and I have to say, I was blindsided. I don't do well with secrets or being blindsided. So when Mr. Turok of St. Barnabas Senior Living was invited to the meeting yesterday, it took me by surprise. And it's not that I don't want to work with partners, but he came in with an idea that you as commissioners know about, that St. Barnabas wanted to use the bridge as some kind of senior living. And they have a lot of money that they can bring architects and engineers and look at what they might want to do with Falston Bridge. And I fully understand that you want every offer on the table, but we are a very small nonprofit. And we have stepped in here and we are just ready to take this community-based bridge for the people, to the people, and see if they're willing to support the project. At $1 million, at $1.5 million, at $3 million, whatever. We didn't have the chance to talk about that yesterday because we were talking about St. Barnabas's idea. And believe me, I talked to Mr. Turok last night. We both felt like we would have been better served to have, he should have known more about where we were at with the project, and we should have known that there was interest in this bridge. And he didn't stop at just saying they wanted control, they wanted to look at the bridge for different possibilities.
We just briefly, I don't want to interrupt you, but you know more about what they want to do with that bridge than this board does.
Well, they don't know what they want to do.
They approached us, and the first thing we did was put them in contact with your council. That's the first thing we did. That's all we did. We never made any, we didn't give them anything. We set a meeting up with the chairman of the committee. Is that correct?
Tom Albanese.
Tom Albanese.
Right.
And we haven't heard from them since. And we were hoping to potentially have a partner with you guys because we saw the large number, and we don't know if that's going to be a possibility or not. So how he got to your meeting wasn't from this Board of Commissioners. It was from your committee. So I just want to make that.
And that's what we were told.
Okay.
And that they wanted to, but I wasn't told that, nor were any of the other members of the committee, so that we could have a chance to prepare for an idea that wasn't part of what I was doing. We've already had an engineer out at the bridge. We have already have an idea of what we would like to see happen to this bridge, and that is a bridge for the people that has no adverse outcomes to it, no change of the structure of the bridge. So in order to do that, this meeting got bogged down yesterday with, we can't do anything without the commissioners telling us and making clarity for this. So here we are in a situation where we can't move fast. There just won't be any moving fast. And I don't mean moving fast recklessly. I mean, getting a project done in a year, from fundraising to getting it open. And that's how you create momentum within a community. And we have reached out through social media, and we are ready to go to the community. The executive committee still has issues over what kind of structure they would like to do, and I tried to explain yesterday that this committee is not fiscally sponsored by Working Bridges. And I've tried to say that in letters, and I get wordy, but it is a committee of Working Bridges meant to find the community's outcome of what they want, meant for the locals to bring the Fallston Bridge back together and do it without having to go through a bidding process. And that's why we need to own the bridge in order to do that, and to be able to move forward. Now, they're looking at years down the line. They just had an idea. And as we talked last night, we were able to come to the consideration that, gee, maybe they would be better off down on the river, down on that boardwalk with the things that they could do for the seniors. And that there are a lot of options out there. But they came in going, we want the right to come up with our own outcome for this bridge. And I know what I think that the community wants for the bridge. From the outreach that we have done, the work that we did on Watts Mill, the fact that you gave us the opportunity to raise funds and to do the community outreach. We believe it is an economic benefit. As they spoke about economic benefits and what they might want to do for their seniors, but that was not involving the community in that. That was what they would do from their board of trustees. And they would only want this one bridge. They're not interested in any other bridges. And whether they would keep this bridge after they're scoping it or choose to put up something new there, one doesn't know. We don't know what they want. They had an idea last week. They saw it on the news. They came to the commissioners. They didn't know from the commissioners that we had been working on this for, almost 2 months now, with your permission. So we need clarity.
I would like to say they knew who was working on the bridge. We wanted to point them in your direction.
Well, he said that in their reading that all they knew is that the bridge needed $1 million to take it out, and that they didn't know about us or the project, is what I was told. And I was asked if they should back out. And I said, absolutely not. I'm not worried about the competition. I would like to bring people together and ask them for money. Lance asked them for money. There was a lot of, what do we do with this now? Now, do we wait for 2 weeks for them? It's going to take them more than 2 weeks to come back with an idea on what they might want to do out there. But it certainly is the commissioner's bridge right now, and if you want to wade through all these possibilities, that's fine. This commission can be set up as its own nonprofit. It could also be set up to have a fiscal sponsor right here in Beaver County, and you don't need Working Bridges for this now. We've pointed out the possibilities that you have on that river that we think are important to the people of the county.
Are you asking for something of the board right now?
Yes, I am.
What specifically are you asking?
I am asking to purchase the bridge for much similar to the deal that we have on the table with Watts Mill.
Well, that isn't to purchase the bridge. That's just to do the renovation, and the bridge ultimately
We would
retained.
hope that the county would want to take it back. If not, then we'll continue with that process. But that would be our hope, that it still wants to be part of a county trail system.
In the estimate for the Fallston Bridge is how much?
To open it up using the glulam panels for the strength and railing is $870,000. We have a $170,000 contingency on there that I don't think we'll need. but we have to put a contingency in there. Mostly it's so that if there are other ideas, we could make them happen. Lighting, utilities, there's a lot of questions that go on with the bridge and these numbers. The sidewalk is expensive to put back on. Does it need the sidewalk? These are all questions for the community. But I believe that, you know, we have the opportunity to try to raise $1 million. And I would like that opportunity. We can't take that opportunity with uncertain ownership.
So what happens if we fail to raise the $1 million and we only raise $500,000?
Then we would ask a collaboration with the grant writing here in Pennsylvania and use those funds for matching grants. Keystone Grant, there's a couple of other ones, Greenway and Trails that Tammy showed me the other day that someone had sent out, hey, there's money in trails, there's money in greenways. All we want, we believe if we can get the bridge open, you're gonna find that what your community wants and already have a great idea for what we've done on such a low level of social media that the people here do from their heart at their foundation and at the state. So we know that you have a rare bridge here. We know that it is eligible for the National Register. If it was on the register, no one would be able to look at it in terms of an adverse effect. Which building apartments or something of that nature on that bridge would be an adverse effect. And that was just one idea of several that came out. I believe, and in speaking with Mr. JD last night, is that the feasibility of that isn't there. The commission, this group understands that their feasibility isn't really there. They have a board of directors that they have to go back to and say, can we put millions into this for our seniors? And write agreements with the county for maybe a sidewalk.
So if I may add something on that topic, I'm Trish Diglietto, I'm on the Historic Falston Bridge Committee. I was in the meeting yesterday, and I think no one's negating that we want to preserve the bridge. I think what we as a committee were asking for yesterday, or some members of the committee were saying, we're putting the cart before the horse here. The commission, we just had our second meeting. We don't have a solid structure yet. We don't have a foundation. We're talking about fundraising. How do we go out to the public and say, we want to raise money. We want your money for this bridge and not have a solid foundation? I think what we're saying, to give you a little more insight, is that I think we need some steps put into place before we could take giant leaps to preserving the bridge. That's my opinion, having attended the meeting yesterday.
And those steps weren't able to be taken because we couldn't get to our agenda. So that's where we're at. That is the ask. Would you consider us taking over this bridge for the purposes of preservation?
Garen, with that being a piece of property, will we have to put that out for bid?
Yeah, this is the unique thing about a bridge. Anytime that the county sells property, it has to be put out for bid.
We just successfully bid for Watts Mill Bridge.
You're saying you wanted, why don't you get us your proposal to us in writing, sort of what you did with the Watts Mill Bridge?
Well, remember, you rewrote that proposal.
Correct, but I just get something from your committee or from your group saying exactly what it is that you want to do. I think you probably still have my contact information, or you can get it to the commissioners.
What I want to do is be able to give this commission the tools that they need to start making the decisions that they need to make about fundraising. One of the questions that Lance brought up that never occurred to me yesterday was, we're raising all this money, it's just going to sit in the bank. It's not going to be used until there is a project for it to be used. So it could just be pledges at this point. Is there enough community interest to raise that $1 million? I don't know. We haven't tried yet.
It sounds to me like the commissioners need to decide on whether they want to let you have the year and fundraise, or we want to talk with St. Barnabas and talk to them about community development on that bridge. and those are the two entities that are interested. I don't know as if there's a third or fourth. I mean, the only time that this happened is when you came to town. I didn't know you. You came right into town. You blew into town and said, "This is an awesome bridge, and here's what I can do." And I'll tell you, I made some phone calls on you. So I talked to Jack Bell in Arkansas. You familiar with him?
Yes.
Okay. You rehabbed the McKintry Bridge. Tom
Yes,
Odell.
beautiful, yes.
You have Tom Odell and
Tim Odell.
Tim Odell. Josh Moore in
Yes.
Kentucky. And who's the guy in Oregon?
That would be Tim Odell in Oregon.
Oh, that's Tim Odell. They speak very, very, very highly of you and the work that you've done. And how this refurbing or restoring a historical bridge has brought economic development to a town. Now, I'm not saying that I'm not going to listen to St. Barnabas. I think that for the commissioners that we need to listen to everything that's on the table because we have to do our due diligence and then let the people decide. That's how I look at it. But I did my homework and I printed out the pictures of these bridges and they're gorgeous. I mean, they're having events and things and it's connecting trails, and so I was very impressed when I looked into it. So
Why don't you get from us what your proposal would be, and then we can discuss it and go from there.
Will do. Thank you.
Any other business? Hearing none. Audience participation.
Just to clear one thing up, because I noticed the press release that was sent regarding tomorrow night's public meeting being at the Vanport. Does that mean the next two will be at the Vanport, or just tomorrow night?
Just tomorrow night.
Just tomorrow. Okay.
Yes.
Because I think last week you mentioned the 28th.
Yeah. Any other audience participation?
I have a few things.
That's okay.
Are you sure?
No, is this the
No,
bridge?
go ahead.
I
Is it, go ahead, it's okay, you can do it first.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it's okay.
No, go ahead. If it's about
It's on
we're talking about
yeah,
it's
the
on,
bridge.
Okay. In regards to this bridge, my name is Doris Britton. I'm working with the fundraising portion of the rebuilding of the bridge. And we have got established, as Julie was saying, for the past 2 months, working with Lance and the others over here. And I think that people have already started to get excited. They've finally gotten past the idea of it being a working bridge for vehicles again. And it's already been brought out there now that, okay, this is going to be a trail that you can bring people out to celebrate and relax and have parties or whatever it might be. People have finally come to this understanding and agreement. Now by throwing out this idea of somebody else purchasing it, it's gonna create a great big animosity within the people, because people are looking forward to having the history preserved for their families and their children and their grandchildren. And to me, that's just something very strongly that we ought to look at, because so many times nowadays, people look at the future instead of allowing people to enjoy their past and what's there already and just refurbishing and rebuilding. And to me, people are just gonna look at it as more money instead of looking at it for them if they try to sell it to the budgeters.
Thank you.
And I truly just want to say one thing, is that we really are grassroots. We're not anybody's rich uncle. It took all those donations for us to be able to, and 3,000 of those dollars were local money, so just so you know. And we are so happy to look at this and see the potential and see what Bill Flick did up there by his site visit. And I know that everyone now has access to all of his notes and pictures, but you have a rare opportunity that most counties don't have. And I just need you in my passion to understand that. I'm not trying to step on people's toes, but I am passionate about saving historic bridges. This one can be a national landmark.
This is the #1 story. You know, this is like the big thing here.
Right.
This is the number one historic bridge in Beaver County. I think this is part of Pennsylvania. I mean,
All of Pennsylvania, they say.
it's the only one left.
Yeah, once the 10th Street, which went down.
And there is a market for people to come here for tourism and economic development.
And when maybe spoke in his plans or ideas yesterday, he said the bridge would still be under there. You can't cover that up and just have the bridge under there. I mean, you still need to see that. That's why we're preserving this bridge.
Thank you. Any more bridge questions or comments, just while we're talking about, before we get on to anything else? All right.
I actually have no questions about the bridge. So.
Yeah, that's fine. We're going to you next.
I'm going to try to get through this. I have a few things as quick as I can. At the last night Ambridge Council meeting, members of the town's Public Safety Committee expressed outrage, I guess is a fair word, that patrols have been canceled by that commission, by that council of the HUD housing in the town. And that they are claiming that drug problems started to increase as a result of lack of police presence there. During that exchange with the public, the council and their solicitor turned attention back to the county and told the Public Safety Committee that that is county property, and basically said, and I think this is a fair summation, if you're concerned about it, and if the county's concerned about it, why don't they have the sheriff's department patrolling it? And they suggested to the townspeople that rather than their police department patrolling that, that the county sheriff's department should be doing so. Has this issue been brought up to the board, and does the board have thoughts?
First I've heard. What piece of property are you referring
It's
to?
public housing.
Private
Oh,
housing
it-
authorities.
Oh.
The authority.
That's the housing
Like,
authority.
Right.
how, okay.
Okay.
No, it hasn't been brought to any of
No.
our attention or
No.
solicitors. I don't think our office either, right, Cindy?
No.
Okay. Next on my list, on October 24th of last year, a reporter by the name of Reed Frazier did a open records request seeking 911 calls related to the Revolution pipeline explosion. That request was denied by the county. The reporter appealed that request, and the county responded to the appeal by stating basically that under the law, the county has discretion as to whether or not it releases those based on a balancing of public interests against keeping the records private. In instances such as that, where it is a discretionary call rather than a legal call as to whether or not a public record will be released, who in the county makes that decision?
All right to know requests go through the law department.
Is that not a issue of public policy rather than law? Should the board not be involved in decisions like that when they're deciding whether or not public interest outweighs private concerns?
That was discussed with the EMS coordinator as well at the time.
Okay, but that did not go in front of the board.
No.
Okay?
Wait, I'm sorry. So, the right to know request said that the county could use our discretion in the denial?
No, one of the bases for the denial was that in the interest of public safety, there could be a discretion used. I don't recall off the top of my head exactly. I do remember this right to know request that came in the fall regarding the pipeline. And at the end of the day, the law department discussed it with the EMS coordinator, and ultimately we responded accordingly in the appeal.
And what was the final ruling?
They ruled in our favor.
Okay.
But wouldn't that be something that we would be advised on? I mean, I would think that would be something that the board would want to be told.
The right to know requests? Because I mean, we got
19 last week from
Yeah, we
one
have-
person.
Well, one of this
we
type,
do something
I mean,
like
there
that.
was a pipeline explode. I mean, and they want 911 tapes. You know, we've had the experience with 911 or tapes being denied before, and you know.
If the board wants us to give them a copy of all the right to know requests that we get, we can certainly do that.
I don't get copies of it. Dan?
No.
Yes, I'll take all of them. Thank you.
And next on my list, Commissioner Medea might remember this because it happened under the last board when he was chair. There was an issue that came up regarding a discovery by then Human Resources Director Rick Darbitt that then Sheriff George David was keeping private personnel files down in the sheriff's office, records containing derogatory information on his employees. And the law department at the time determined that the sheriff's actions in that case were unlawful, and the board was being forced in a position where they had to sought an injunction against him on that issue and sought injunctions on other issues as well, based on his conduct. Ultimately, he was dealing with a lot of issues at the time and decided that keeping derogatory files on his employees was not a priority for him, and he conceded that issue. I have 3 sources down at the sheriff's office who tell me that our new sheriff, Tony Guy, has now taken up George David's practice and has begun keeping private records containing derogatory information on employees down in his office that are not going through or going in front of the Human Resources Department. Is the board aware of this? And if so, does it agree with the prior board and this prior law department that such a practice is unlawful? And if so, are there any actions planned to put an end to that conduct by the sheriff?
I can answer one. No, I didn't know.
I didn't know either.
No. Sid, were you aware?
I was not aware. There's no way I would know what departments have on their employees in their files. I mean, obviously we are supposed to maintain one set of personnel files in HR. Whether he keeps something down there without my knowledge, I don't know.
Has anyone said?
The only thing, we just recently had a deputy go to a full-time position, and she mentioned something about a performance review, which is not in her file. I asked Sheriff Guy, and he said he would get that out to me. So.
And when was that?
That was probably last Friday.
And have you received it?
No, I haven't. I don't have it yet.
What were the other questions? I'm sorry. The other questions of that the first one was, did we know? I don't think any of us knew. The second one is, do we agree with the former solicitor and former board?
Right. The discussion on Darby, this discussion took place publicly, and I wrote about it, was that the practice of keeping 2 sets of personnel files, or however you want to characterize them, but files down in that office that may contain derogatory information on an employee, was specifically determined to be unlawful.
I would agree that I believe it's best practice to have one file located in the Human Resources Office. To agree with the opinion of the solicitor, I'm not going to give that. I'm going to ask our solicitors to give this board an opinion as well. Obviously, probably not right now, but please.
Yeah, we'd have to look into it, obviously. This is the first that I'm hearing about it, and I don't know what would be in one file versus is it the same exact thing that's in the Human Resources file or not, I don't know.
But I do agree that it'd be best practice to have one file located in the Human Resources Department.
All right, 2 more things real quick. This Orton Foundation, I'm trying to get a feel for it because this is the first I've heard from it. If you get rid of some of the descriptive language like foresight and vision and heart and soul, the foundation of it sounded to me an awful lot like a partnership, and that we now have an outside organization that's going to be coming up with funding priorities for economic development and things like that. Is there a differentiation between how this at its core operates versus the partnership which has previously been rejected by this board?
I see both of them shaking your head. Can you guys answer that?
They don't know what, I don't believe they know
The Beaver
what
County Partnership is a group that was formed by individuals branching off of the Chamber of Commerce who are going to be going to look after try and get DCD dollars for different projects throughout Beaver County. And this board decided not to collaborate with them because we already have we already have our CED, we have our planning, we have our redevelopment. So I think the question was, are you the same as that? And they're shaking their heads. So if you could, I can't answer that for them. So
Lance, you would
Lance, can you
probably
answer that?
Well, yeah, I mean, what they're doing is grassroots specifically within the municipality. So if it was Beaver that was selected, it's just the residents from Beaver going in and working with Beaver on Beaver issues, problems. Correct me if I'm wrong on any of that stuff, but working specifically just with Beaver
So
on what they're.
it's similar, but it'll be at a municipal level rather than a county level.
I don't know. I don't want to say yes, it's similar or not. but it's definitely on just a municipal level, yeah.
All right, thank you. And last thing I have, the issue of time cards came up, and the board sounds like they are in some sort of agreement that everyone who's not an elected official should be punching in. And the question is whether or not individuals under oath offices or this board has control under. One office that the board does have control over that is not run by an elected official is the public defender's office. Does this policy mean that Paul Stepp will be having to punch in now?
I believe that the previous policy was indicated that it didn't apply to court-related attorneys.
But that could be something that, with the new policy, it could be reviewed.
Thank you. That's all I have. I appreciate the board's time.
Lance, do you punch in?
Yeah.
Sid, do you punch in?
I do.
Dan Colville, do you punch in?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
All of our department heads punch in.
Yep.
Our directors? Yes, I believe Paul Steps would be punching in.
And he'd have to be in the building to do that.
That's the thought.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other audience participation? Mike?
I just
I'm
want to bring
sorry.
to the board's attention that the Beaver County Humane Society has a major event coming up on February 23rd. It's our Wings, Suds, and Songs. It's a major fundraiser for the animal shelter. I know Commissioner Amadeo is a big fan of karaoke. And,
Were you singing?
He has been there in the past. But it's at Center Stage, the 23rd, Casadova Band, karaoke DJ, wings, subs, cookie table that would rival any Western Pennsylvania wedding reception, and it's all for our shelter. We even have VIP tickets this year for upfront parking and different festivities. But that's on the 23rd. Tickets are available now online or our website. So thank you.
Thank you.
Mike, where is that at?
Center Stage,
Center Stage at what time?
6:30 to 10.
And I'm glad you're here. How are you doing in the?
Every day's a new challenge.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the busted pipes and all of the stuff that happened at your place.
Yeah, we still have the disaster crews checking things out. The fire marshal advised us that the sprinkler systems from above where they were located above the insulation and closer to the ceiling where there is no insulation. So we're checking out the walls to make sure that there's no water damage down inside the walls. So.
Very good. Thank you.
Ms. Britton?
I do have one other question, and forgive me, I am just more of a lay person here. I'm unaware of a lot of what normally takes place on a day-to-day basis at your level. However, with this concern of the Falston Bridge, being a person of interest in this matter with a very strongly insight to helping with this, can the board by chance give us any idea how long this could delay? If it could, because again, you know, trying to move forward, is there any possibility of any idea of how long it could delay? Because we've got the people so excited.
Yeah, I think, Garen, correct me if I'm wrong, once Julie gets us the formal proposal, you know, if it's from now until next Wednesday, we'll probably be discussing it next Wednesday at the work session.
Okay.
On what direction this board wants to take. So not to put the ball in your lap, because I know you'll have it to us probably before we adjourn executive session.
No, you know my
But-
laptop's broken. I'm sorry.
We can give you a computer if you need to write something
I
on it.
didn't bring it. I run a database system,
So,
so it won't take long.
As long as once we get this, you know, before next Wednesday, we'll be discussing it next Wednesday's work session as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other audience participation? Hearing none, any reason to reconvene after executive session?
No.
All right, we'll adjourn into executive session, not reconvene. Thank you.